This is the 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 17.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Pellizzaro, and we are back with episode number 17 with Michael Manavian. And Michael is one of the partners at the Greenwich Diagnostics Sports Lab, which you may recognize that name from episode number 8, where we had Allie Gilbert, who is one of the other partners of Greenwich Diagnostics. And so they are 2 out of the 3 partners at that facility up there. The third is Dr. Stephen Murphy, who, Doc, I'm going to kind of call you out on this one. We had a little banter over Facebook that we're going to get you on one of these episodes in the near future at some point, so calling you out on the airwaves. As far as today's guest, Michael, this guy is a golf professional, teaching pro, but he is definitely not your typical golf pro. In fact, we all know Miguel Angel Jimenez as the most interesting man in golf. Michael just may be up there for one of the most interesting men in the golf profession as far as teaching pros are concerned. So Michael's background, he played golf at a very high level, started teaching golf, and then decided that he needed to start working on his body a little bit to get a little stronger, hit a ball a little bit further, and decided to get into bodybuilding. And unlike most of us, when we decided to make some changes with our body, Michael decided to go 100 miles an hour in the other direction and actually became a bodybuilder, trained under former Mr. USA, Mr. Universe. Michael went on to compete in several bodybuilding competitions, win some bodybuilding competitions. He described some of his crazy training sessions on the podcast, which is some interesting stuff. And then after all that was said and done, he then, learned a ton about nutrition, supplementation, going through that whole process, going through his body style changes. And then he started using that, teaching nutrition, got back into golf, played some more golf, but then got into teaching again. And now, these days, he uses all of that background when he's working with his clients up at the sports lab. And so, on top of that, he also wrote a book called Atomic Golf, which he'll talk about a little bit. And he does a ton of work with, some high-level people. There are some folks that have been through their lab to get evaluated with their 3D capture system called Gears Golf, which Michael touches on just a little bit at the end of the episode. So tons and tons of great information in this episode with Michael. So in the process, we talk a lot about nutrition, especially hormones and how they relate to, just your diet in general, your physical health, but also to your golf game. We talk about fitness. Like I said, we talk about his insane workouts that he did, but then also some of the stuff that they're doing up at the sports lab, things that Allie's working with on their golfers, and how they tie all that stuff together between the several different entities that they have. And then, given the fact that he's a golf pro, we really don't touch on the golf swing, which I kind of like. The 18 Strong Podcast is not necessarily about swing tactics and drills and things like that. We're kind of touching on different bases, different people, how they work with their clients, but not necessarily getting into any of the swing stuff, because obviously that's not my forte, and I think that a lot of that can be very subjective, and it's something where you're working with your teacher and you're working on specific things, so not necessarily the greatest format to go through a lot of swing-related stuff. So that's why I think this is such a great interview too. And before we get into the episode, of course, I love reading some of the reviews that we've gotten, and so I'm going to read one here by V-Shoe, which came in on December 5th. And it says, I'm going to start by saying I love your podcast. It's amazing to see the different angles of approaching the game and the multitude of resources available for me. For me, the Ellen Reed podcast was a game changer. I applied the mental workout with immediate positive results. Thank you and keep it up, with a 5-star review. Vishu, thank you very much for the feedback. Always love getting the reviews, so thank all of you guys for that. And we're going to jump right into the episode. So enjoy this one with Michael Manavian, and I will catch you on the other side. Hey, Michael, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, and thanks for coming on, man.
Jeff, I appreciate you having me, bud.
You got it. Talked with Allie a few episodes back. Actually, she was one of the first episodes. Allie Gilbert, who obviously is one of your partners at Greenwich Diagnostics. And, sounds like you guys have a ton of stuff going on. We've got a lot to talk about on today's show. So first, before we jump into anything, if you could just give the audience a little background about you, what you guys are doing up there, and then we'll move on.
Okay, a little background on me from Watertown, Mass. Went to college at Methodist College back in the day. Now it's called Methodist University. They upgraded somehow once I left. Started working in Norwalk, Connecticut. Started teaching golf there. Had about 2,800 lessons, 2,800 half-hour lessons my first year indoors. Repeated that the second year, and then went from having over 600 clients a year to one client for a year, and and taught him how to play golf. Brought him down from shooting in the 130s to breaking 90 for that one summer. And then he paid me a boatload of money where I went and played and embarrassed myself pretty good. Wasn't hitting it far enough or straight enough. And that was a bad combination on the Teardrop Tour. So at 128 pounds, I decided to get involved with weight training. I hooked up with the guy who won Mr. America, Mr. Universe, Mr. USA. And commuted out to Long Island from Southport, Connecticut, twice a day sometimes, just to get my workouts in with him. Did that for 6 months, quit my job, and started training full time. Got offered to do a bodybuilding show. That turned into 20. Won a few. Got nationally qualified to compete in the Mr. America, the National Championships, the Mr. USA, the IFBB North Americans. Did okay in a few of those events. Did not so good in the rest of them, but learned a lot. Learned how to come in full, dry, and hard, and have a good physique. And then we started coaching people, when taking what I learned and coached people into getting their own championships under their belts. And then wanted to come back to golf. Got into the supplement industry for a little bit. Helped procure a few products there that were designed to help focus and help a golfer repair and recover. From there, just got back into golf a couple years back. Worked back here in Greenwich, Connecticut. Met Allie Gilbert, met Dr. Murphy. Decided that the three of us need to form some kind of company and work together. Got together and created the Greenwich Diagnostics Sports Labs in February, March of this year. Had a couple of seminars that were gangbusters, and we've been busy ever since. And then we opened up our second facility when we partnered up with Clay Diagnostic Sports Labs, and just opened our third location in October. So up at Rebar Fitness up in Westport, Connecticut. So now I've got a gears machine to my name, giving golf lessons here, measuring people in their blood work, and having a absolute blast. Not sleeping, but having a blast.
Yeah, you guys, it seems, are going 100 miles an hour all the time. 3 locations within, 1 year. And for the listeners, if you could give a little bit more background on what you guys do with Dr. Murphy, with Allie, at the Diagnostic Sports Labs.
Sure. What we realized immediately was that people like information. In the internet age that we're in right now, you could find out the temperature of Bondi Beach in 8 seconds on Google. Yet, right now, and if it took you 10 seconds, you'd be upset.
Right.
So right now, we have all this information at our fingertips, yet we don't know what's going on inside our blood. We don't know our hormones. We don't know our lipid profile. We don't know our thyroid numbers. We don't know our micronutrients. There's a lot of information that we can optimize that we don't have a clue on where we're at. We're just passing it off as fatigue or gas or any such ailment, whatever. So you go to your physician, you try to get some blood work done, and they're bound by insurance companies, so they do the least bit possible to say you're okay, or wow, your HDL, LDL is high, you need Lipitor or whatever. So, and they move on to the next person. So we realized that there was a need for advanced diagnostics, that people wanted to know 10 steps deeper, and they wanted all the information at once, and how could we get this to them? So we asked around and got involved with a couple of really good labs, and we handpicked which ones we wanted to use, which ones we didn't, put together a good menu of items, and we feel that We can give you an advanced hormonal profile that's second to none. We can measure your micronutrients on the cellular level, so we know not what's inside your blood, but what's getting into the cells. We measure your DNA by measuring your telomere length to see how long they are, and therefore see how well you're aging compared to adults at your age bracket. And then we can also measure for food and allergy sensitivity tests. We have a dry urine test, which is really good for comprehensive hormones, that now we can see how well the hormones are metabolizing through the system. So if your cortisol's high, if your progesterone's low, if your estradiol's high, we can measure all your male and female hormones to really get a good in-depth picture of what's going on inside your body. So merging, I know Allie spoke by the way, that was a great episode with Allie. I'm a little biased, but that was a great episode.
Yes, it was.
The performance triangle that we procured of biochemistry at the top, nutrition in one corner, and fitness in the other corner, the three of those components have to work in some kind of synergy. So if we raise somebody's biochemistry, we got to raise their training, we got to raise their nutrition. So, working out really hard is great, but if you're not feeding it, if you can't recover from it, you're missing two edges of the triangle. So we look at it from a triangular standpoint like that, holistically. So we want to make sure that we've got all these three areas covered. So we opened up the lab, and it's been gangbusters. People are really enjoying measuring themselves. So, we joke that we have TrackMan or Flight Scope numbers for the body.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so the people that you're working with, the population, obviously this is a golf podcast, and we talk a lot about golf, and you guys do a ton with golfers. But this is kind of a general population thing for anybody, right?
It is, except for the fact that I'm a golf professional, Allie's a golf fitness trainer, and our doctor loves golf. So
there you go.
We kind of gear it towards golfers. A couple years back, I competed as a bodybuilder, and I got a lot of nutritional information and weight training information from that, and how to diet and change your own biochemistry through supplementation of natural foods and nutrition and over-the-counter chemistry. Well, we want to bring in a medical doctor who could now engage a person who's, their hormones are dying off, and they need anti-aging medications to help their testosterone levels, make sure their estrogens are in adequate levels. So we looked at what populations do we know the best and what can we help the most. The bodybuilding industry is a pretty degenerate type of industry. It's very degraded. There's not a lot of wealth and affluence in it. So we want to help the people that are going to help others. So, you've met a lot of golf professionals that are a really bunch of good guys, and a lot of golf people who play golf, and a lot of philanthropy and a lot of good for the game. I mean, how many millions of dollars has the PGA Tour generated for charities? You can't really say that about many, many industries. So, every week on the PGA Tour, there's some local charity that's benefiting from it. So we want to make sure that the people who are the most golf-related are being taken care of the most. So that, and when I got back in the golf industry, every golf pro I knew in the area was asking me for nutritional advice, and I started up with working with Rob Labritz, brought him back from injury from his shoulder surgery back in 2010, and he didn't think he was going to play golf that summer, and he played 6 rounds in 4 days in his very first event back, like 3 months ahead of schedule, and then qualified for the Club Pro Championship, got into the PGA Championship, and was low pro that year. So
wow.
We helped his nutrition the entire way, and he still has my pre-tournament prep for nutrition on his pegboard at work right above his computer, it tells me. So it's something simple that if you're interested in fueling up properly, it makes a difference. If you're interested in playing your best, you need the right fuel, and it doesn't take rocket science. It just takes some very simple biochemical interactions with nutrition. It's really pretty simple once you have a program for you.
Yeah, speaking of, how the simplicity of it, because I think a lot of people, just like in the golf world, you look at the TrackMan numbers, you look at the Flight Scope stuff.
Yeah.
When you look at these different tests and, you get into all these different numbers, I think, to the general public, they almost look at it and say, oh my God, why would I ever need that much information? But can you break it down a little more simply and tell us what are some of the big mistakes that you're seeing after doing all of these testing with your golfers? And then what are some of the most common fixes that you guys put into place for these people?
Boy, is that a great question. First thing we start with is getting everybody to give us a 3-day food log at minimum. So now we know what they're eating, what they're fueling the body with. 90% of the people, 95% of the people that come to us aren't eating adequate enough protein. They are eating way too many carbs and not enough fats usually. So we can see that.
Right.
First off, they are far from optimized in the macronutrient profiling. So we would suggest that most people start with 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein a day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should eat 200 grams of protein. That's 6 ounces of chicken, fish, or steak 4 times a day. That's 200 grams roughly. Add to that 3/4, 0.75 grams per pound of body weight for carbohydrate intake. So again, same 200-pound guy, 150 grams of carbs. Have it for the first 3 meals of the day. You're good to go. And then 0.5 gram per pound of body weight for fats. So 100 grams of fats per day, essential fatty acids that can come from the steak, the meat, the fish, the chicken that you're eating, and then supplement it with avocados and nuts and nut butters, which are great, or olive oil, macadamia nut oil, things like that. And supplement that with 2 meals of your day. So you have a 4, 3, and a 2. It's very basic. And then at least we can have a conversation now of what are your macros. I mean, I don't know many golfers 10 years ago that were counting their macros. But that's just general lifestyle longevity. Make sure that you're healthy enough, because we've got a little bit of basic fundamentals. We want to make sure that the golfer is strong enough to hit the golf ball, has enough endurance to last 18, 36, or 72-hole tournament, whatever they're playing in. And then do they have the ability to do those first 2 items for the rest of their life without dying prematurely? That would be important. Yeah. If a guy's having a heart attack walking up 16, it's not going to be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, just the basics of, getting the things that you need, first of all. I think when we talk nutrition and we talk supplementation, you immediately think pills, you think, whatever, IVs, that type of stuff. But at what point do you, just tell a person, okay, first you have to get these basics, these 95% or this 95% down before we even jump into supplementation? I mean, do you force, or not force, that's a terrible way to put it, but do you encourage them to do that first before jumping into any other supplementation?
The first thing we do when I get an inquiry is say, welcome aboard. I appreciate you getting in touch with us. Please fill out the attached 3-day food log.
Nice. Very nice.
That's where I start. I need to get some basic information. So no different than signing in your name, address, phone number. I would much rather have what's going into your mouth.
That's awesome.
I need that first off. Now, the beauty of that is I'd say about 50% of the people that reach out to me don't follow up after I give that, which is fantastic because I don't want to work with people who don't want to get better.
Yeah, it just qualifies your lead right there.
It's correct. Everybody has a problem, and I understand that, and I can empathize with a lot of people, but we're here to make people perform better. I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste mine. We're just here to make sure that you can perform at your optimal. And as you said earlier, I'm a pretty busy guy, but more importantly, I have a lot of passion in helping people achieve their goals. That's one of the greatest things I think a person can do is have a thought in their head, okay, I want to do this. Now, how do I do it? And demonstrate it in the physical universe. That's a pretty powerful thing. To me, weight training is just that. It's mental toughness training. It's, okay, you've got 2,000 pounds on a vertical leg press above your head. You're either going to rep this out or it's going to crush you and kill you. Okay, now, do you have the guts and the courage to get under it and do it?
Right.
There's something to be said for people who are stimulating their body, getting under the bar and moving it. Now, we can get into the form and the efficacy of, well, it's overtraining, it's undertraining, okay, that's a different podcast. But for me, it's what's the goal, what's the task, and let's do it. End of story. No questions, just do it. What do you want to do? That. Okay, do it. Done.
Right.
Now,
go ahead.
quickly
Sorry.
about overtraining. I don't think you could overtrain. I think you can under-recuperate.
I like that.
Which is a big deal. I mean, if when I was training hard, I was waking up early, I was getting my meals in, I was training hard, I was doing my cardio, I was eating all my meals a day, I was going home, I was going to bed, waking up, refreshed, doing it all over again, versus the guy who's going out, working out, missing a meal, working late, going out and partying, having a few drinks, and not really fueling his body, goes back in the gym, does this for 2 or 3 weeks, starts getting injured, backs off, and doesn't do it. Well, there's a big difference with guy number 1 versus guy number 2.
Absolutely. And, I think we're seeing a lot these days. We've talked on the last several podcasts about, the schedule that the pros are maintaining these days. And, I just wrote an article recently talking about just different phases of your off season. And, first, when you get off, if you are a tour pro and you're playing a ton and you're traveling a ton, or even if you're like a high level recreational or amateur golfer and your season is kind of finally over, first just kind of chilling out and relaxing, put the clubs away, but then kind of the recuperation phase and how important that is. And I love your quote there that you can't overtrain, you can under recuperate. I think that speaks so perfectly to what most people miss in their training programs and in most sports. Kids are playing all year round these days, different sports, and I think that's just a fantastic quote. I'm going to put that one up for sure.
You're welcome. I'll borrow one from Allie. I think she stole it from Facebook somewhere, but it's like saying you don't want to read too much because you get too smart.
Right.
Get all the information you can, weed out the stuff that's useless, use the stuff that applies, and go forward. And, recovery has a lot to do with food. And it has even more to do with hormones as you get older. So if this podcast, I'm not sure what your target demographic is, but if anybody's over 40 and their testosterone's plummeting, they can't hit it as hard as they could once before. So it might be important to go to your doctor, or shoot us an email at Greenwich Diagnostics Sports Labs and get your blood work measured, get your hormones measured to find out, hey, you know what? If I know what my hormones are at, I can tell my trainer, listen, you can only train me twice a week unless I want to go get supplementation, which is a completely different story you and your doctor have to have. But let's talk about where are they now and what is going to be able to recover from that. So if your level's 400, on the testosterone, which should be somewhere between 250 and 1100. If you're at 400, you maybe want to train once or twice a week. If you're a teenager and you're at 1500, you know what? You can train every day. But you got to make sure you eat commensurate to that.
Right. Yeah, so let's talk about the hormones a little bit, because I know that the population of this podcast, which really ranges from all over the place. I've had some people inquire and send me messages that are, high-level amateurs. Some are just recreational golfers. Some are aspiring tour pros. So
Nice.
It's a little bit of everybody, and I love that. And I think this is applicable to everybody. So what are some of the things that you're looking for? You just mentioned testosterone. What are some of the other hormones that you're looking for, and how does that factor into, the person themselves, and give us an idea of what the different hormones do, if you could? Sure.
Well, all the hormones are made from cholesterol, basically. There's a cholesterol, if you Google the steroid cascade or the cholesterol cascade, cholesterol is a steroid. It starts the whole cascade from developing. So you've got cholesterol that turns into pregnenolone, progesterone, androstenedione, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, and it basically creates, if you Google it, that image, you'll see how it all feeds the system. So we want to make sure that all of your hormones are optimized and that they're converting properly and you're getting the right amounts of each levels. So making sure that a person eats enough healthy fats, because cholesterol comes from fats, and you got to make sure you eat whole eggs, you got to make sure you eat avocados, and make sure you eat anything that has the word essential in its name. Essential amino acids, essential essential fatty acids. So omega-3s, omega-6s, and protein, basically what your caveman brethren ate many, many generations ago, is what's going to make you create muscle, maintain muscle, repair cells, repair tissues, and be healthy enough to start with. So we want to make sure that your hormones are high. So not only are we looking at your male-female hormones, but we're looking at your thyroid levels to make sure that you're not over or under producing thyroid, which controls your metabolism. We want to make sure that your lipid profile is going to make sure that you don't have a stroke or a heart attack in 10 years. Yeah. That's a good thing. We want to make sure of that. And those are the three basic sets that we look at. We also want to measure your cortisol to see how well you're shuttling cortisol out of your body. So is your cortisol peaking early in the day and leaving the body properly as the day progresses? Or are you having problems with stress and it's all backing up and you're not flushing the cortisol out of your system? So there's a few things. And when are you training relative to that? So if you're training early in the morning, or you training late at night, or are you training around the peak times of when you're ready to handle stress?
And with your population that you guys are working with, I'm sure it's all over the board and all over the map with different people, but are there a couple things? I'm sure testosterone's a big one, but are there any other things that really tend to spike the meter more so than others?
Testosterone's the big one. And there's three ways that I would look at, and again, I'm not a medical doctor, but three ways that I would look at testosterone levels. One being that you could have low testosterone. And how to increase that, I would say there are three ways. You could supplement with testosterone supplements. I wouldn't recommend anything over the counter. I would recommend going to your doctor and measuring and getting on a program, whether it's a patch, a pill, a cream, or an injection. That would be the best way to optimize your levels. I'm not asking you to go out of range or to misuse a drug, but under proper medical direction, it's a very safe substance. So making sure that you raise your testosterone. The other way to raise your testosterone is to make sure that your estrogen gets lowered. So some people have a lot of estrogen. So it's the gap between your testosterone levels and your estrogen levels that's going to make you have that vigor and that urge and that drive to train. And then the combination of both suppressing estrogen and increasing testosterone. So for some people, we have clients that their estrogen is a little bit elevated and their testosterone's kind of mediocre. They might be a candidate for, lowering their estrogen by taking supplements for that, by taking medication for that, rather.
And are there any just simple food-related things, not that's going to fix this stuff and change it, but to kind of optimize just diet-wise?
Yes. Stop eating soy.
Okay.
Stop eating everything that comes out of bags and bags and containers. Eating at fast food places that have a lot of bad food in it. Once in a while, I'm sure it's fine, but by making a dietary habit of eating out all the time usually tends to raise estrogens and phytoestrogens in our environment, including, separate from that, high fructose corn syrup is probably the worst thing on the planet. It has caused more pancreases to shut down the production of insulin than probably anything else in the country.
And when you say,
which leads to obesity.
When you say anything in bags and containers, is that because of the plastics?
Yeah, that's partly of it, but also, if you're eating at McDonald's 3 times a day, and they're serving to you in a bag through your window.
Obvious answer there.
Yeah, it's not the best for you.
Gotcha. All right.
So the abundance of carbohydrates, really, and the fast carbohydrates, the high fructose corn syrup. Another great thing to do is Google or go to Wikipedia and look up the definition of a carbohydrate, and then near the bottom, when it asks for, show more types of carbohydrates, I think there's I counted up once, it's something like 130 different types of carbohydrates.
Really?
So there's like the single the different size of molecules. So you got monosaccharide, polysaccharide, tetrasaccharides, oligosaccharide. You got just the amount of different types of carbohydrates that you could consume all have different reactions. I mean, yes, at the end of the day, a carb's a carb, but there's a big difference between a big leaf of oatmeal than a little grain of table sugar. One's going to get in your system faster. The other one's going to process a little bit slower, and it's going to now ask the pancreas to secrete insulin at a different rate. So yeah, post-training, go ahead, have a pixie stick right after training. Have all the sugar you want. But right before you go to bed, you might want to think of, a sweet potato.
Right.
Or skip out on the sweet potato at all and have some, avocado or some fatty acids. What am I thinking? Olive oil or some nuts before bed, so you don't spike your insulin like you would with a carbohydrate.
Gotcha. All right, I want to shift gears a little bit here and
yes, sir.
And talk about. I didn't realize this that you had written a book, and the name of the book is Atomic Golf. So give us a little idea of what Atomic Golf is, and then I'm hoping this will then lead into some of your training stories that you kind of enlightened me about earlier.
Sure. So I won a bodybuilding show, and I got offered to write a golf book. Go figure that one out. I have no idea.
Yeah, where does that come from?
We had a publisher, and publisher approached us, Basic Health Publications out of Beverly Hills. They wanted to write a golf book, and we tried to figure out how would we write the book, and we broke it up into 3 sections: the mind, the body, and the golf swing. So the first third of the book is about mental preparation and how you can, be a stronger individual mentally to prepare for tournament play and weight training, because it takes a certain mindset to go into the gym and, as we said before, have a task in your head and go apply it in life to have it demonstrated. Because, there's a lot of people who talk big on the internet, and there's other people who actually don't spend time on the internet and get stuff done. I try to do both, but
me too.
But that's neither here or there. And then the middle part of the book was a basic weight training program designed for people who want to get interested in weight training, for golf, as it were. And this book was written in 2004, so there's it was published in 2008. And there's basic routines that I would give clients where, if you did this set and this routine and this rep scheme, it just gave a basic introduction on how to weight train, utilizing your basic equipment in a gym, where the gym's kind of like a big box gym where they have selectorized equipment and they have plates and they have barbells. Not getting too sophisticated into functional training because I'm a bodybuilder at heart, but more old school, high reps, low reps, how everything fits into play and when to do what type of workout and what scheme. And then what I had a lot of success with in golf instruction was giving people a 5-pack of lessons or a 6-pack of lessons that we talk about, the impact, we talk about the backswing, we talk about the downswing, we talk about the follow through, and we talk about your pre-shot routine. So the golf section of the book was designed in a way where the reader would feel like they were getting a lesson or a series of lessons from me as the author. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the lesson tee, I'm coaching you, okay, I want you to do X, Y, and Z and drill it. No different than if you're going to tell a client in the gym, okay, I want you to do 15 reps on this pull-up bar. Okay. So then the end of the book had drills for you to go on the golf or on the range to go, okay, set up 5 golf balls, hit a fade, hit a cut, hit a high push draw, hit a low push draw, low, different shot shapes. So I'm actually putting the person through a boot camp, Navy SEAL type of practice session.
Right.
So we thought it was something that the public might like, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it's been out for 6 years, and it hasn't really sold well, but they haven't really marketed it for us. So it's still there on the shelves, I guess. So if you Googled it, if you went to Amazon.com, you could find it and download it on Kindle or buy it for like $2 somewhere, I'm sure. But
perfect. Well, we'll go ahead and link it up in our show notes, and I'll make sure it sends it over to the Amazon page or wherever you want it to go. And
thank you.
Absolutely, I'll definitely get a copy because just the whole thing. intrigues me. I want to see how you break it down and the different, just bringing in the fitness side and the golf instructor side, I think is pretty cool. And with your bodybuilding background, how does that play into the way that you coach people, and then also the way that you guys, because I'm sure that you're involved to some degree with what Allie's doing on the fitness side as well. The nutrition ties in with it. Do you bring some of the bodybuilding stuff into the golf world? Because, obviously that's always been a bit of a taboo. Bodybuilders can't golf, right?
Yeah, so when I started weight training was 2000 in December. I never touched a weight before that. I was 128 pounds. Hypermobile, and I needed to get some muscle on quick. So 6 months of eating 10 meals a day, never skipping a workout, never skipping a meal, and training, 40, 50, 60 sets per body part 3 times a week. I was making consistent gains, and then in August of 01, I stood on the scale at 188 pounds.
Wow.
So it was a big commitment. I mean, I quit my job. I quit everything. I just started weight training and eating because I knew this was going to be the next level for me to succeed in not only life but my golf game, because I was fed up of hitting, 400-yard par fours with fairway woods. It was a big problem. So everybody told me you can't weight train for golf. You shouldn't weight train. You shouldn't, do bodybuilding training. And we weren't trying to be a bodybuilder. We just kind of ended up as one.
Right.
I mean, we were doing a lot of speed training, a lot of high volume sets. I mean, I've done 100 leg set workouts, in 2.5 hours. They're brutal. But the guy I trained with had a system, Steve Mahalik is his name, and he invented the intensity insanity system, where it was the most amount of work in the shortest period of time. So, we'd set up 5 machines, and we'd start on the first machine, do 25 reps in the first round. So you set up a leg extension, a leg slide, a hack squat, a vertical leg press, and a hamstring curl, for example. 5 machines. Start the first one, do 25 reps, go right down the line while 2 or 3 other guys are chasing you. Go back to the first machine, do 15 reps, go right down the line. 25, 15, 12, 8, 6, 4 while you're adding the weights was a typical thing. And then we just do that, 20 more times.
Jeez.
With nonstop. You were consistently trying to leapfrog the guy in front of you and throw him off the machine. It wasn't nice, but it was effective. And then we would have fun with the workouts where we'd change the rep schemes, where we do, for example, a progressive double progressive reps. So what that would mean was you do a full rep followed by a half rep. And then you do 2 full reps followed by 2 half reps. And 3 and 3, 4 and 4, you go all the way up to 25 sometimes. Think about that for a second. Take an overhead press with the quarters on each side on a barbell. Standing overhead press. 1 half, 1 full. Okay. 2 halves, 2 fulls, 3 halves. The counting was the hardest part.
Yeah. Right.
You get to 24 halves and 24 fulls, and you got to now do 25. We did a lot of 100 rep set stuff. I remember vividly running in the parking lot with 135 pounds on my back, running, going to the end, running back, doing 25 squats, having another guy go and come back, and you do it again, and then you got to run it backwards, and then beat your time that you did forwards. Stupid shit, just stupid stuff, just crazy. So you realize that death was no excuse, that you trained beyond the pain and death was your only release. Yeah, so what do you do with golf? How do you bring that to golf?
Yeah, well, that's the question.
That's the question. Well, the idea of any training, the Patriots who won last night, any great sports team trains harder than the actual competition they're going to be confronted with. So when the time comes and you're under duress, it's easy. It's not as bad as the training was. So competing was actually easy for me. It was the training. It was actually the food that was the hardest part. Making the food, eating all that food. But the training was like so invigorating, and competing was anticlimactic. So now you take that to a golf course. Okay, I've got a 2,000-pound leg press. I've got to rep out 25 times, or it's going to crush my legs, crush my soul, and just kill me. Or I could hit a golf ball, and this ball is going to go where I want it to go based off of the willingness of me to make sure that it does it. And if I miss it, there's no payback. It's kind of easy in relationships. So when people say golf is hard, I find it funny. It's difficult, but it's not hard. Roofing is hard. Roofing in the summer in Florida, that's a hard job. But like playing golf is relatively easy of a task. It's a difficult task, but it's not, there's no pain associated with your bad shots. I love the day that it might happen that, you miss a shot, you see a guy on the fairway doing 25 push-ups. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be great. Accountability. It happens in football. Who's it? That guy, the running back for the Patriots who missed his alarm clock and didn't get up on time, he didn't play the next week. Well, there's some accountability there.
Yeah.
Golfers, for the most part, it's changed a little bit over the last few years, but, everything's on easy street. Everything's kind of come easy to them. They kind of do whatever they want. Look at even, the former number one player in the world where he tried getting away with everything, but sooner or later, life started to give him his payback. So the idea that the person wants to be focused, and focus comes from having discipline. So you don't try to be more focused, you just try to have more discipline. So eating and training and doing what you have to do gets you more discipline. Well, what gets you to keep your discipline in? Well, that's your integrity. If a person's got integrity, then the discipline's easy, and focus you never lose. But as soon as you have a kink in the armor where you violate your own integrity, where you kind of, you shouldn't do something and you do it, you shouldn't go out partying with your boys when you got to get up early for a tea time, and you kind of go play and you maybe get away with it one time, and then the second time and the third round, you're just, you're exhausted, you're not recovered. So that's violating your own knowingness, and that's kind of what your integrity is. I played a lot of mini tour events where you had guys who would just do that, and then you had other guys who would, no, it's 5 o'clock, I'm going to bed, I'm going to go sleep, got an early tea time, got to be at the course at, 5 o'clock, putt for an hour, chip for an hour, teeing off at 8, boom, boom, boom. And they had their discipline in check because they had integrity, and when they got to the course, they were pretty focused. And this is one thing I've always admired about Tiger when he was at his peak. This guy worked hard off the golf course. He was very disciplined. He's a little bit of a jerk, but you can't argue that the guy was focused.
Right.
So he must have had some kind of discipline. He had some kind of integrity to his game. And when you saw that all fall apart a couple of years back, well, it wasn't his focus. He couldn't get his focus back. He tried to get more discipline, but he couldn't do that because he kind of lost what he knew was right and wrong on his moral ground, whatever his moral ground was. We're segueing a little bit here, but that's kind of what weight training taught me, is that, okay, you want to get a goal, you've got to use the gym. You can use the gym. You don't have to, but you can use the gym to get mentally stronger.
Yeah, we had Dr. Brett McCabe on the show in one of the early episodes, and one of the things he was talking about was the idea of, sometimes you need those workouts to break your athletes, to push them to that point of no return, and so they can see how they react. And then that way, when they are on the course or on the field, just like you said, the hardest part was in the gym. When they're out there, it's easy. And then when it gets a little tough out there, they know that they can handle it. And not that the stress that you're under on the course is the same as the stress that you're under in the gym, but sometimes stress is stress. And if you can react well in one situation, you can kind of segue that into the other.
Yeah, who said it? Was it Mike Tyson? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
I don't know, but I like it.
So we can measure your cortisol levels. We can measure how you adapt to stress. But we can also flatten it and get you used to a higher threshold of performance at a higher level of stress. Right? I mean, your body can adapt. So why can't we reason to, hey, if we train you harder and your body is going to secrete cortisol when you're at level 10, what's it going to do at level 1, 2, and 3? Right? So that's what we're trying to get at. And it works for Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
And my friend Alan Wren said, yeah, but there aren't a lot of Navy SEALs laying around. I went, yeah, that's the point. Because you want to be elite. I mean, we're only here to help people who want to perform better. And I get it. It's not for everybody. But there needs to be a place where you can go and go, okay, I want to get just totally optimize in mind, body, spirit, total golf swing performance, total physical performance, total mental performance. There's a connection between these three, and we feel like we've got a formula or a system that addresses the three.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight, and there was a lot more that I know we had talked about possibly covering, so we might just have to bring you on for a second go-around at some point, Michael.
I'm here.
But before we go, I do always like to ask, the professionals that we have on, what's something that you're pretty excited about going on with either your business, your game, your fitness, whatever, right now?
My fitness is done, and I say that in full respect to where I was at one point. 9 years of training at an elite level where I could feel like we were part of a group of people in Long Island that trained that would out-train anybody. So I achieved what I wanted to do in that, and it's time to get back to golf because it's a high-maintenance job to train that hard. So what was it? 3 weeks ago, we got invited by the Golf Channel to go down to Orlando, and they had a casting call for a golf fitness program that's to be announced in February. So my partner and I, Brad Skupeka from Philadelphia area, he's a fellow stack and tilt instructor in the network. He works out of Golf Tech down there. He was 225 pounds. We fed him, and he's 240 when we went down to Florida last Monday, a week ago. And Allie's been working on his fitness. I've been doing his nutrition. Went down there, he's like 6 foot tall, 240 with, 6-7% body fat. He's got veins like hoses. He qualified for the Remax World Championship. He was part of the 128 that made it out to Mesquite. So the boy can move it. So we went. We did the casting call. We did the audition, and they seemed to like us. So hopefully, we'll, knock on wood, we'll get a call back by the end of the month and find out if we're going to go. So that's pretty exciting. Hopefully, I'm not too out of shape relative to where I once was, but it wasn't too functional for golf at that lean. I mean, I remember playing in the New York State Open, qualifying for it as an alternate, and then getting a call the day before, hey, Michael, you want to play in the State Open? It's 95 degrees outside tomorrow, and I am like dieting down, cutting water for a bodybuilding show on Saturday, and it was Tuesday. I'm like, yep, I'm in.
You gotta be, right?
I dropped 9 pounds on the golf course. It was crazy, and then ate a gallon of ice cream to rehydrate.
There we go.
That was hard. People think eating a gallon of ice cream is easy. It's hard. Anyways, getting back to it. So we're looking forward to potentially competing in some kind of Golf Channel golf fitness reality show where you tee off one and you got to go over a mountain to play to the fourth green. Something crazy like that. We're not sure what it is, but it should be fun. Looking forward to the PGA show down in Florida where I'll be... There's an opportunity there for me to present on Gears in the Gears booth. I think we're going to be doing something with them. But I'm very excited. I've had, in the last 54 hours, I had 60 major appearances walk through the doors of my building, which was pretty exciting.
Wow.
And being able to work with those people on their golf swings and their lifestyle and making sure that they hang around for a long time because their blood work is optimized is it's very fulfilling and quite an honor that I humbly am blown away with sometimes when I think about it. But it's all very good stuff. So to answer your question, there's a lot going on. I am excited to work with any person that comes through the door next. And, we're doing a lot of good things here. There's a lot of good before and afters on Gears that I can show people changing their golf swings using the stack and tilt system. We've got an unbelievable program where, you can hit a golf shot and we can measure everything to 100th of a millimeter. Nike just put one of these systems in their oven. There's only 3 of them on the East Coast. We're the only one in the world in a health club. So Allie comes in here and does the neuromuscular physical assessment. So we can measure your rotation, your side bend, your extension, joint by joint to see if you have any dysfunctions, see how well you move as a whole. She's got her part down pat. I'm just trying to make sure that I can fix somebody's motor program here in the same building. They can go out there, make sure that they can perform best under the gun, and then we have the cafe here to make sure that they're fed based off of their deficiencies that they've seen to make sure that they can perform best the next time they come in.
Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff that you guys have posted just regarding the gears and some of the videos, and of course Allie dancing around in the gears outfit. And it just looks so amazing. And the fact, taking it out of the golf world, but then taking it into the fitness and the assessment world and being able to look at that stuff and really get some real, objective numbers and data is so valuable.
We had Mike Ballo Jr., who's Allie's web.com player, in here doing an assessment where he was doing push-ups and a squat and one-legged lunges, and you can see the instability that he's been dealing with his left ankle being an issue at one point, but now it's much stronger, so it's gone away. We had Sean Quinlivan from Piping Rock, the head pro from Piping Rock Golf Club, out in Long Island, come in. Allie spent a whole hour on the fitness assessment with him, looking at the rotations, and it's just pretty cool to watch her in her element as I'm just moving the cursor and making sure it's on. And then, having these guys who are, Tony DiMaria came in here the other day, and he won the TaylorMade event last year in the Caribbean. He came in here and he was blown away, and he said, "Stop helping all these guys. I got to play them in the spring."
Right.
So it's fun. And then, what I'm really another thing I'm looking forward to is in the spring, or in the next few weeks, actually, we're going to have probably one of the finest fitting systems. And I say that with all due respect to all the great fitters we have in the world. I'm getting all the fitting cards from the major manufacturers, Nike, Cobra, TaylorMade. We're getting them all in here, and we'll have them all sensored up. So you can come here, get fit. We can measure your tip deflection in hundredths of a millimeter to make sure that the tip is staying with the shaft and you're not messing up your D-plane and getting some weird torques on the shafts. We can measure all that and optimize it for irons and woods. And then once the clubs come in, I can optically check them to make sure that they built the right lie angles, built the right shafts for you. So and have it all interchangeable. So, and then you can even, come get fit, and we'll send the specs to your local pro, and your local pro can order up the set. So we're working with, a lot of the country clubs in the area to make sure they know that what we offer here is useful to them and their clients, to help, create a team atmosphere where I can play a few roles. I can help them, be their liaison for their health. I can help them with their club fitting. I can help them with their golf swing. Allie can help them with their nutrition and their training. And Dr. Murphy can help optimize their hormones. And the cafe here at Clay can help, do the food prep. The Valley will wax and wash your car while you're waiting for it all. And, it's a pretty cool space here.
Man, it's like the Ritz of golf and golf fitness. It sounds awesome.
It is. And there's even a day spa here, so you can come in here and drop the. We had Mike Ray, a golf professional from San Antonio, fly into New York over the weekend, and he had his beautiful wife Kelly, who's I think 6-7 months pregnant, do a prenatal massage or treatment, and he was here just playing on gears the whole day. So
nice.
We got something for everybody here.
Yeah, I can't wait to take a trip up there and visit you guys and check the space out and play around.
Yes, sir. Open invite to you.
I appreciate it. I would love to get up there, hopefully sooner than later. Before we go, Michael, any last parting pieces of advice that you have for the listeners?
I really would like to say something eloquent here, but that just wouldn't be my style. Jeff, I appreciate everything you're doing to grow the game of golf, and reaching out to Allie and myself now, and Dr. Murphy and the three of us to make sure that what we're doing here gets around. So that's very kind of you, and really appreciate what you're doing to grow the game here and making creating a forum for people to get engaged in and get better at golf, which is really what ties us all together. I just want to make sure that you can live long enough to enjoy it. I mean, the way we figure is if we got a 60-year-old guy who's going to stop playing golf at 60, if we can get him to play till he's 75 functionally, that's 15 more years of harassing phone calls at the golf club, 15 more years of golf ball sales, 15 more years of, sweater folding and buying shirts and, lessons and whatnot. So we feel like we're growing the game versus something like foot golf or whatever it is that takes us away from the golf course. So we're here to optimize people so that they can enjoy playing longer and better. So.
Love it. And I appreciate the kind words. And that's exactly what this whole show is about. The website is, connecting the listeners to people like you, people like Allie, people like, the Jason Glasses and Dr. McCabe's and all these guys, and giving them the experience of, being able to hear your expertise and hopefully grab some pieces of information from you and from everybody else and, form their own opinions on what's going to work best for them, or hopefully it encourages them to go seek out somebody like yourself and call up Diagnostics Lab and get to you guys and get their health on track. And again, play another 15 years of golf or whatever it might be. But so I appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate the time. I know you're a busy man. And of course, we're going to have everything, linked up in that you've talked about today, your book. We'll have the Sports Lab linked up, and people can, like you said earlier, they can get in touch with you about doing their blood work remotely, correct?
Yeah, we have partnered lab locations all around the country, parts of Canada, and other ones that we can send all around the world. So even if you're in Beijing, China, I can get your testosterone levels measured and see how well you do on for five stamps, less than $5 from around the world. You can get this sent to us. It costs a little more to do the test, but in postage, it's very simple. But we have partner labs where we'll find a way to either send a phlebotomist to you or have you go to a local lab, and we'll get the results here in Connecticut. Our doctor will review them. And then we'll have a conversation to go over the results. And if you need some help finding a doctor in your area that gets it, that's one of the big things, getting doctors who get it and don't look at you like you've just committed a felony asking for your testosterone levels to be measured.
Right.
And I want to make sure that people understand there's a big difference between what bodybuilders who are, I competed as a natural bodybuilder. I won the natural Northern USA back in 2005. And I competed as a natural, but beating steroid freaks was fun. But, it was for a performance aspect that these guys were on what they were on. I'm not here to say that it's right or wrong or whatever, but we want to make sure that you're optimized. I mean, you can walk into, a female can walk into CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, anywhere in the country and buy estrogen over the counter. The men can't buy a usable testosterone. It's a class 3 felony. So we're just trying to look for some equality here for male and female because the hormones don't really differentiate. They just know you need a certain level of testosterone and you need a certain level of estrogen, and we want to make sure that you're in the ballpark. I mean, you don't want your spin rate to be 5,000 with a driver, right? You want it in that nice little 1,700 to 2,500 zone. Make sure we optimize your launch conditions. So we want to make sure your testosterone is in the 800 to 1,000 range. And that's what your doctor should want to do too. So you can go anywhere in the country. We have blood work done. We have other blood work we can do in Canada. We have other blood work we can do in the rest of the world rather. We do a dry urine test. So there's no blood shipping. The blood has to be shipped within 24 hours to the lab. There's all sorts of protocols, and that's why sometimes overseas or through international borders, it doesn't quite get here in time, and it's a waste. So yes, basically for anybody in the U.S., we can have a lab probably somewhere between 20 to 50 miles near you, if not closer, depending on where you live. And we'll send you a kit out. You'll take the kit to the blood draw. They'll tap a vein, act like a vampire, pull your blood. We'll get the results in 2 to 4 weeks based off of which test it is, sometimes sooner, sometimes later. And then we'll put a game plan together for you to overview everything that you have.
Awesome. Very cool. And, the 18 Strong podcast has now been listened to in over 10 different countries. So who knows where you're going to be getting some of these blood tests taken from.
I look forward to it, man.
Awesome. Well, Michael, can't thank you enough for taking the time out tonight. Keep up the good work and keep us posted with everything going on at Greenwich and Clay and what was the other one? Where's the other fitness center?
Rebar
and
up
Rebar.
in Westport. Yep.
Rebar. Awesome. Well, like I said, I'll have everything linked up in the show notes so people can contact you. They can follow you guys on Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. And once again, thanks, brother.
I appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you for everything you're doing.
You got it. Thank you, sir. All right, another great episode packed with tons and tons of information that hopefully you guys will take with you and you use and implement into your training, your nutrition, and just put into plan with your golf progress. And I love the fact that we can have people on this podcast and put it out on the airwaves that can speak so knowledgeably on what they're doing and things that can benefit our game. And so I hope that you guys appreciate Michael and everything that he's doing, and definitely check him out if you guys have any needs as far as nutrition, supplementation, and the blood testing, that kind of stuff. Like he said, get in touch with him, and he can pretty much put you in. They can do the testing for you pretty much anywhere, no matter where you are in the States or out of the States. So. And then I also have to say, Michael and I, we sat on the line for, probably another 20 minutes, and he was sharing his screen with me, going through some of the stuff with the Gears golf system, their 3D capture system. And I have to say, this thing is incredible, just the details that he can get. And they're not just doing this stuff to look at golf swings and do club fittings, but Allie's also using it for their functional screens and things like that. So just a very, very impressive system. And so if you guys ever have a chance to look at that, and Michael said he even does some webinars and stuff like that with the guys from Gears to, kind of showcase that stuff. So really, really cool stuff. And I have to say that, he was showing me a couple different swings of people that have come through their place. And I don't know that I'm at liberty to say the names on the air, but definitely some names you guys would recognize. And we got to kind of analyze a couple different swings, and it was pretty cool to see. So again, contact Michael at the Sports Lab. I've got all that information in the show notes for you. And just to touch on one last thing, Michael talked about the idea of the strength training portion and the importance that it has, not just for your body, but just also for the mental side of your game. And, constantly putting yourself in those situations where, you're testing yourself. You're trying to see how far you can go. You're kind of trying to push your limits, which is exactly what you should be doing on the driving range, on the practice facility, on the putting green, and utilizing all those things and, pushing yourself to those limits to see how far you can go can only make you better. So I challenge you to get out there and challenge yourselves when you're practicing and playing, not just kind of running through the motion. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in to the 18 Strong podcast. Please join us over on Twitter. Follow me at Jeff Pellizzero. Just say hey, say what's up, shoot some questions over. And like I said, I would love to answer some of your questions on the air and just connect with you. So, I appreciate all you guys are doing for me. So if I can help you out in any way, please just let me know. So once again, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.